I'm Eric Rhodes with Fine Art Connoisseur, and today I'm pleased to have an interview with Whitney Ganz from Cargus Fine Art.
Well, we've been in business for 20 years, and we are one of the predominant galleries in the country that specializes in California paintings that were done between about 1870 and World War II. A lot of people, call a lot of this material plein air painting, but there's more to it than just that. There were the more academically trained painters who had a tendency to work more in Northern California around San Francisco before 1900. Obviously the Impressionists from about 1910 to 1930, working predominantly in Southern California, although there was a number of them up north. And concurrently with those guys, you have some of the modernist painters who were working all over the state. But that's really kind of what we focus on. Personally, I'm more passionate about the modernists who were working during the period. That's totally on a personal level. There was a type of painting going on in America in the late 20s through the 30s called precisionism and regionalism, but it's not so much regionalist paintings with a capital R, which really means a depiction of people working in the fields, people working in the factories, that kind of thing. It's more the technique they were using, that real clean, sinewy outline, large blocks of color, things kind of like George O'Keeffe was doing, but not George O'Keeffe, what was going on here in California. That's personally what appeals to me, and that's kind of a little subset within the overall context of what was going on in California during the period. Well, I grew up in a house that over the course of a number of years I saw somewhere in the vicinity of 400 paintings come and go. My parents have put together what some people consider the finest collection of 19th century American art privately held in the world. So, and at the same time, my dad served on museum boards, and my mom and my dad started a support group for the LA County Museum called the American Art Council, still in existence today, 40 years later. But I was exposed to all this art from the collector side early on. I was an art history major at Stanford University. Upon graduation, I got involved in what I really wanted to do as a kid, full-time, not art-oriented. And I pursued that career for 10 years. And at the end of the 10 years, I was getting kind of burnt out on that. And one of the two things I always thought I wanted to pursue was either be in the art business or own a fly fishing store in, nowhere, Montana. And just one thing led to the other. Bill Cargus, who owns the gallery, I'd known through my other business for years. And I started talking to him about maybe working part-time. And 3 weeks later, I was running the gallery. And that's July 3rd will finish my 20th year with Bill Cargus. Good, really top-end good work. And you can find that in any field. I mean, you could be a collector of abstract expressionism, totally minimal abstract paintings. But that doesn't mean you can't admire, great Egyptian art, or you can't admire great 19th century academically trained artists. And good is good. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what period you personally pursue, it's there. And so I'd say that's what kind of I really like to see is whether it's what I personally collect or what the gallery handles or something that's totally far afield. If it's good, it's good. I mean, one of the most interesting subjects I took at Stanford was Chinese screen painting. The things that were done just purely with black ink on white paper. On the outside it looks like something really boring, but all periods of art, the more you learn about them, the more you begin to understand them and appreciate them. And I remember of all the courses I took in college, that might have been the most interesting to me. And yet on the surface, it looks like that would have been about the most boring. So, you know, really, there's good in every facet of it. Good is good. I don't really follow that. But I would say that it seems to me that what becomes collectible has about a 60 or 70 year time frame from the time it was done to the time it starts getting recollected again. And it's almost like it skips a generation. It's kind of what your grandparents are into or what your grandparents' parents were into. That seems to be what people get interested in, because now you look at you know, some of I forget the name of them, but the houses that were built in the 60s. You know, at the 60s, they were the hot thing. And then the 70s and 80s, and people weren't really that interested in them. And now we're about 2010, and all of a sudden, those kind of houses have gotten to be very hot. And same thing with the furniture that was in those houses, that kind of 50s furniture. Well, I guarantee you 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people thought that stuff was trash. But it's come back. And it seems to follow a 60, 70-year cycle between when it was done and then it's up here and very sought after, and then it kind of does one of these. And about 60 or 70 years later, here it comes again. First of all, I never sell a painting from an investment standpoint. I always say, buy what you love. But if you do look at it at an investment standpoint and you are dealing with ethical dealers and things are priced where they should be priced, then I always say if it comes down to a tie between two, buy the highest quality painting you can afford, which usually means the more expensive painting. But there's a reason it's the more expensive painting. I one time had an investment banker friend of mine come into the gallery, and he wasn't really looking at paintings. The first thing he asked me was, what's your most liquid painting? And that was a question no one had ever really asked me before, and I thought and 10 years later, I'm still very proud of my response. And my most liquid painting is my most expensive painting. That's why it's the most expensive painting, because it's the most in-demand, sought-after painting, and therefore it's my most liquid painting. Almost to a degree, the more expensive paintings are easier to sell than the less expensive paintings. There's a reason they're the more expensive paintings. They're the best, and everybody agrees they're the best. And those are the ones that in slow economic times hold their value the best, and in good economic times appreciate the most. And so that's what I always tell people. But first of all, buy what you like. I mean, you're the one living with it. Some art consultant's telling you to buy, this painting, and you don't like it, don't buy it. You're the one living with it. I can't tell you the number of people who get their collections get kind of taken away from them by art consultants, and they don't go with their heart and their gut anymore. They go with what they're told, and all of a sudden it's not their collection anymore. It's the art consultant's collection that just happens to be in their house. So that would be a little bit of advice.